All right. Good afternoon and welcome to Wednesday Workshops with Whitney. I'm going to wait a minute or two longer to see if anyone else is going to join. If you'd like to put your name in the chat box so I know who's here, I would greatly appreciate it. Yes. Okay. Maybe wait one more minute and then I will get started. Thank you for being here. All right, I guess I'll get started. So, good afternoon and welcome to Wednesday Workshops with Whitney. I will be your host, Whitney. During today's episode of Wednesday Workshops with Whitney, we will be discussing 5 tips to help you fall asleep when you're feeling anxious. Okay, but before we begin with talking about tips for falling asleep when you're feeling anxious, I'm going to ask us our icebreaker question. So I'll ask the question, and then if you'd like to share your response in the text box, that would be great, or the chat box, and if not, that's okay as well. We've done this icebreaker before, and I think that I got a good response for it, so I'm going to do it again. Okay, so if you had to choose a word, one word, or a symbol to be put on a t-shirt that you had to wear every day for 1 year, what would the word or symbol be and why? I'll give us all about a minute to think of ours, and then we'll keep going on. Okay. Okay, so does anyone have a response for our question of, if you could pick one word or a symbol that would go on a t-shirt for 1 year that you had to wear every day, what would it be and why? Okay, well, if you haven't decided, I guess I will share. I think that I would want this symbol of maybe a smiley face, like the circle, the yellow circle with a smile on it, because it would represent happiness, and I would want to be spreading happiness to other people while wearing it. So that's my response. Oh, thank you all for joining. Awesome. I'll ask the question one more time. I just did our icebreaker. The question is, if you had to pick one word or a symbol that would be put on a t-shirt that you had to wear every day for a year, what would the symbol or word be and why? I said I'd pick the yellow smiley face because it represents happiness, and I'd want to share that with the people that had to look at my shirt. So if you feel like responding, great. If not, that's okay. Or introduce yourselves if you can, just so I know who's here. Trina would have the praying hands. Oh, that's great. I think that's really good. That would look great. Thank you for sharing. Oh, yeah, and thanks for the like. I was going to say, please like and subscribe to our HHCD channel to be updated on different workshops or events that may be happening at our Holston properties. All right, so if anyone else wants to, you said actually you collect them? Collect what? Praying hands? Sorry, I was kind of confused by that. Okay, so we'll move on from there. Today's episode, we're going to be, yes, okay, well, great, Trina, that's really awesome. Today, we're going to be talking about tips to help you sleep when you're feeling anxious, which I thought was a very appropriate topic for going through COVID and how 2021 is still kind of not going super great. So I'm sure that many people are feeling anxious, and it's very difficult to sleep if your mind won't stop spinning. So I'm going to read this article. It's called 5 Tips to Help You Fall Asleep If You're Feeling Anxious, according to sleep experts. And also, I just want you to think about, while I'm reading this, if you have any tips that have helped you sleep in the past, so we can kind of discuss that afterwards. And then lastly, we're going to have a guided imagery to end. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them in the chat box and I'll get to them. And thank you all for being here and participating. I really appreciate it. Okay, so 5 tips to help you fall asleep if you're feeling anxious, according to sleep experts. This is written by Julie Jones, and I found it on eatingwell.com. Okay, it says, here's how to score some shut-eye when you can't seem to turn off your brain. You lie down in the evening after a long day. You're tired and you need to rest, but your brain has other ideas. This is very common to me, I feel like. Maybe not every night, but I definitely understand this. It's wide awake, revisiting every aspect of your day, overanalyzing every tiny detail, and thinking about everything that needs to be done tomorrow. Or maybe you fall asleep easily, but around 3 a.m., you wake up and your mind is spinning. If these scenarios sound familiar to you, you're not alone. More than 50 million Americans suffer from some type of sleep disorder. And that's 50 million over, divided by, I think we're at about 326 million people. That's a lot. Okay, that's about 1 in 7. 1 out of 7 people has some sort of sleep disorder. Wow. In recent months, many people are experiencing sleep issues for the first time in their lives due to anxiety brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic. In fact, in parentheses, COVID-somnia is a term that has been used by specialists to describe acute insomnia due to added stress of the pandemic. Psychiatrist Howard Mazier, MD, says that bearing underlying medical conditions, most sleep disturbances are related to stress. So, If you have a medical condition that affects your sleep, that's one thing. But he's saying if you don't have a medical issue that's affecting your sleep, then the majority of the reason is because of anxiety and stress. Most often, sleep disturbances are anxiety related, he says. There are different patterns of sleep disturbance. For some, it's a difficulty falling asleep. For others, it's waking up too early or the 3 o'clock in the morning. And then for some, it's both, which that's very unfortunate. And most of the time, it's related to anxiety. So I guess what I was going to say was, at least we're understanding that even though a lot of us experience these sleep disturbances, at least we know, the most common reason is anxiety. Because if we know kind of the root cause, then, like this article present, we know ways in which we can decrease our anxiety to help us sleep. So I think I'm trying to be as optimistic as I can. Okay. The good news is that there are some easy ways that you can reduce stress and anxiety to get a better night's sleep. Scott Lebowitz, MD, who is a sleep medicine specialist, explains the relationship between anxiety and sleep disturbances and provides us with some of the things we can do to help with acute sleep issues caused by stress and anxiety. Anxiety and insomnia go hand in hand. Anxiety activates your waking pathways in your central nervous system. So the more anxious you are, the more awake and alert and aroused you become. It is extremely common for people with insomnia to also have anxiety because anxiety creates a hyper alert state, Lebowitz explains. So you can kind of think of it of the fight or flight response, where something happens and your brain just gets super activated and you can fight or you can run. And that's a lot of adrenaline, but it reminded me of kind of that anxious, hyper alert state. Lebowitz also said that many people don't feel like they have anxiety until they lay down at night. One of our coping mechanisms is distraction. That's how we survive. If we sat around and thought about the reality of life, especially now with COVID, we wouldn't leave the house. But we have defense mechanisms and coping mechanisms that allow us to deal with things during the day. At night, that's a different story. When we lie down to go to sleep, or when we wake up in the middle of the night, we don't have access to these coping mechanisms. They go offline at night. So you are left awake in the dark with nothing to do but think. How do we get ourselves out of the spiral of anxious thinking that keeps us from sleeping? Lebowitz recommends that we take these 5 steps to reduce anxiety and improve sleep. So before I get started, these are this doctor's advice. What I want to do is afterwards, I also have a list of some other tips on helping you sleep, especially when you're feeling stressed. And that's why I wanted you all to think about if you had any ideas or if you have any tips of ways that or things that help you sleep so that we can kind of share it with each other. Okay, so let's get started. How to sleep better when you're feeling anxious. Number 1, set a regular wake time. Instead of setting a regular bedtime, set a regular wake time. When people tell themselves that they have to go to bed at a certain time, they create anxiety for themselves. They think that they need to go to bed at a certain time, even if they aren't sleepy. They lay down, they can't fall asleep, and then they start to worry that they aren't falling asleep, which only exacerbates the problem or makes it worse. The better option would be to set a consistent wake time and figure out how much sleep we actually need. The normal range for adults is between 6 and 9 hours a night. The regular wake time acts as an anchor so that your sleep timing can unfold, allowing you to figure out how much sleep you truly need to wake up and feel good. So I thought this was interesting because I've heard, like he said on the other time, is to go to bed at the same time every night. But I've also heard that you need a routine for both. So a time to go to bed and to wake up every day, whether it's the weekdays when you're working or going to school or whatever else, or the weekends when you may have some free time. So that's interesting. Number 2, go to bed when you're sleepy. If you're not sleepy when you lay down, you're almost guaranteed to have trouble falling asleep. Labout says that he has fixed many patients' sleep issues by simply suggesting that they go to bed later. He says, we all have a clock in our brain that controls when sleep and wake should happen. That is a trait. People who are night owls are night owls. People who are morning people are morning people. And contrary to the belief, we cannot train ourselves to be morning people by going to bed and waking up early. That's unfortunate. Many people who have problems with sleep come simply because we tell ourselves that we have to be a morning person when we're not. And we try to be a morning person by going to bed early when we aren't sleepy. Here's an example. If you are someone who needs 7 hours of sleep and you go to bed at 10 p.m. and set your alarm for 7 a.m., you're giving yourself a 9-hour window for sleep. Those extra 2 hours are going to show up somewhere, either at the beginning of the night, in the middle of the night, or in the early morning. So, if you go to bed at midnight and wake up at 7 a.m. and you feel refreshed, you may be a night owl who is a 7-hour sleeper, and that is okay. I like that because I think that society puts a lot of pressure on us to go to bed before midnight or at certain points in time. And I think what I like about these tips are that your sleep and wake cycle, how much sleep you need, etc., is very individual. So maybe you only need 7 hours, maybe you need 6 hours, maybe you need 9 hours, but it really comes down to what works best for you. By setting your wake time and knowing the number of hours of sleep you generally need each night, you'll be able to better know the time to go to bed when you will actually be sleepy. Number 3, unplug and disconnect. Going to sleep requires us to get ourselves into a calm, meditative state. Labout suggests that we set some distinct boundaries to allow ourselves to unplug and disconnect before we lie down to go to sleep. Internet, computers, TV, news. All of those things are opposite of what we need for sleep. So you have to draw some boundaries and have a hard stop of when you are going to disconnect. He suggests that we think of our bedroom and our bed as a protective cave. When you walk into there, the world can't get in. To create this protective cave, you have to disconnect prior to going to bed so that you can get into a calm and quiet state. Labout suggests reading a book, listening to calming music, meditating, and avoiding news, your phone, and your computer. I think that this is a great point because with technology as advanced as it is, and with most of us all having a phone, we're so used to being on it constantly or having it near us just in case someone calls us or there's some sort of alert that it's almost become its own appendage or it's become attached to us in a way. I know that sometimes I'll be laying down to fall asleep and I'll start playing a game on my phone and all of a sudden it's 2 hours later. And if I had done that earlier and put my phone away, I would have fallen asleep quicker than 2 hours. So I think for me, that's a really good point. Okay. Number 4, create a worry time. If you haven't stopped to rest all day until you lie down to go to sleep, you also haven't been able to reconcile the day's events to create a plan for tomorrow. This would lead almost anyone down the path of worry. Instead of trying to resolve all of these issues when you're trying to go to sleep, create a designated worry time. Sit down and write a list of every possible thing that you could worry about, big or small. Then write a solution or plan to deal with each worry. Now that you have an action plan for every single worry that you've identified, or now you have an action plan for every single worry you've identified. All your problems may not be magically solved, but this means that you do have a plan. And it doesn't necessarily have to be every single worry or what if. If you're the type of person that likes to plan out everything for tomorrow, try to do it earlier and not right before you go to bed. Because if you need to plan, it's probably better to do so when you're awake and if you need to make phone calls or be more aware of the steps to take to accomplish your goals. So I love that. I've told people that before in some of the groups I've facilitated is when we have a hard time turning our brains off because we're worrying or things just keep going through, it is one of a coping skill is to set a time to be able to worry or write down things you need or whatnot. It can actually be very helpful. And number 5, choose the path towards sleep. When you've taken all the steps outlined above, you've done everything you can, according to him, can do to set yourself up for successful sleep. Now you have to choose the right path. To be able to sleep, you must allow your brain to get into a quiet meditative state. The quiet meditative state that we all get into before we fall asleep is a neurobiological change in the brain, which is conducive for the sleep process to really start to engage, says Laboutz. Taking this path toward a quiet, meditative state is a choice. The other path is the path of worry. If you haven't grounded your worries during your designated worry time, your brain is going to be looking for every single worry that it can find, which will only make it harder to relax and fall asleep. Laboutz reminds us, you can choose a path toward sleep or you can choose a path toward wake. Creating a quiet, meditative state is choosing a path toward sleep. Engaging all your worries and concerns and fears is choosing a path to stay awake. It is a choice. Okay, so that is the end of the 5 tips to help you fall asleep if you're feeling anxious. Does anyone have any other sleeping tips they would like to share in our group? Or do you have any opinions about what was brought up in the article? I was going to let anybody share if they'd like to before I read off some other sleep tips that I have. So if anyone has any sleep tips they'd like to share, feel free to type them into the chat box. Lainey. Oh, Lainey, I'm happy you're here. Lainey said, I know when I'm trying to go to sleep and I can't shut my thoughts off, I like to focus on breathing deeply. Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that. And that was great because he did talk about some sort of meditation, breathing deeply. Sometimes you might be able to listen to a meditation tape, like where they guide you through breathing, kind of like what I like to do with us at the end of our workshops. Sometimes people, or I've been taught to count backwards from 1,000. And I think only one of the times I've done it, I got to 0. Most of the other times I was able to fall asleep. Because if you're worrying, you need something to stop the worry. And if I'm focusing on counting backwards, or if you're focusing maybe on counting while you're breathing, or being like, in, thinking about it, going in and out, visualizing it, you can't keep worrying. So thank you so much for sharing that. Great. Okay. So some other sleep tips that I have here are go to bed at the same time every night, or wake up just like he said. Avoid caffeine, including chocolate, for 4 hours before bedtime. Avoid alcohol near bedtime. It interferes with your quality of sleep. Avoid going to bed hungry. And on the other side of that, avoid eating a large meal within 2 hours of bedtime. Create a restful environment that is cool, dark, and quiet. Sometimes people get those blackout curtains. If you maybe are the type of person that needs it to be black to be able to sleep, that can be helpful. And also, like they said, like being cool, or like finding the right temperature that is comfortable for you to sleep will make it more likely for you to not have to wake up and take off covers or put covers back on. Limit daytime naps, no longer than 30 minutes and earlier in the day. Participate in regular physical activity, but not too close to bedtime. Relaxation techniques to manage stress and worries, such as, like Lainey said, some sort of breathing exercise, meditation tape. I actually I was going to say kind of like a white noise, because I'm the type of person that when I'm falling asleep, I might be hyper aware with sounds and think I'm hearing something that isn't there. Or, sometimes people like going to sleep with a fan. I have an app on my phone. What is it called? It's actually a really good app. Oh, it's called Rain. And there's it's a free app. There's a ton of different sounds you can listen to. And I actually like listening to the train. And it's funny because I grew up about a block away from the train tracks, so it makes sense as to how the sound of the train kind of lulls me to sleep. Okay, if you're a light sleeper, you can use earplugs, or also one of those eye face masks to block out the light. This one's important to get out in the sun they say particularly morning. It can be for really any period of time. They say at least 15 to 20 minutes. This helps the body clock and rhythms become regular. If there isn't sunlight, you can purchase an artificial light box that can mimic the sunlight. But they did talk about how sunlight, especially in the morning, can help your body know kind of what time it is and whatnot. And then lastly, create a routine before going to sleep, which could be reading a book, listening to the radio, taking a warm bath, maybe journaling. And then, so by sticking to a get ready for bed routine, you're telling your body that it's time to wind down and relax. Great. So I hope that this was helpful. Did you learn anything new that you hadn't maybe heard of before? Is a question to think about. Do any of these tips maybe work for you? Or do you plan on using any of these that we discussed today? If you'd like to respond, you can. If not, that is okay. Okay, so lastly, I am going to read our guided imagery. I found this in Unified Cosmos online. So I want you to relax. Try to sit maybe flat with your back straight if possible, your feet flat on the floor. You can have your hands on your lap or maybe at your side. Okay. Find yourself in a comfortable seated position. You can use whatever position makes you feel comfortable, whatever makes you feel at ease, and is completely pain-free. If you need even more support, sit on a meditation cushion or even on a chair. Sit up nice and tall. Put your hands on your legs. Keep your shoulders relaxed. And close your eyes if you're comfortable. And breathe in deeply. Take a moment to appreciate this moment, this time to explore your emotions, your feelings, your inner voice. Now, close your eyes. Imagine you are out for a long walk into nature. You are walking and walking, and you can feel nature all around you. Visualize a green meadow of the greenest color that you like the most. Visualize an extension of green grass that extends to a nearby forest. You see the green grass, the green reflections of the sun on the meadow. You extend the look towards the forest and you see leaves of all the possible green tones. It's relaxing, very relaxing. The sun is reflecting in the green leaves of the trees, and a myriad of delicate shades of green are formed before your eyes, echoing each other, creating a green, three-dimensional space. It is beautiful, and you enjoy it. You breathe calmly, pure air, full of the oxygen produced by the trees of the forest. You find yourself breathing a green, relaxing air. With each breath, you relax more and more. You listen to the sounds of nature, a sound passing between the leaves of the trees. It is relaxing, very relaxing. You hear the sound of the wind in the leaves and relax more and more. You stop for a moment, observing the green meadow, the old sedentary trees, their beautiful leaves. Now you hear a sound. While walking, you hear it closer and closer. It's calming, relaxing. It's water. It's a canal that passes in front of you. Be aware of the rhythm of the flowing water. The water is crystal clear. It flows over and over again. You walk by the river, flowing its natural flow. Observe the canal barges floating and passing by. They soothe your soul as you imagine these are your worries, your fears, but they are going away. Feel how you enter the river, but you don't swim. You immerse yourself in it and let your body float without making any movement. Let the river carry you in your imagination. Feel how the river modifies its flow and increases and decreases its intensity. Be still, although the rhythm of the river changes. Feel your breath and try to keep it as deep and stable, even if in your imagination the river flows faster and faster. Stay like this for a few minutes and slowly recover the consciousness of your body. Start moving your arms and feet and slowly open your eyes. Sit up slowly. Now you know what it feels like to float and flow in the river of life. Take this feeling to your daily actions and thoughts. Now you see a beach on the horizon and you walk to get there. You follow the stream and its flow, and at its pace, you get there. Visualize the small beach nearby the canal, the blue sea, the golden sand. You lie on the sand, and it is delightful. The energy of the sun accumulated in the grains of sand penetrates your back, relaxing you. You feel that accumulated heat and how it's spread in your back. It's relaxing. It's very nice. It's a delicious sensation. The blue sea, the blue sky without clouds, sound of the wind on the leaves of the trees behind you. The sun strikes your arms and you feel the warmth more and more. The sun warms your chest and your legs. Your legs, they sink heavier in the sand, relaxing you more and more. You hear the rhythmic and balanced sound of the waves that seem to rock in this calm blue sea. Under this precious blue sky, you hear the sound of the wind. You feel the canal waters becoming one with the sea, listening to its flow and its energy expanding and expanding. You become aware of your body and your mind resting relaxed. Now you are ready to seal your practice with a gentle bow or bow. All right, so that was the guided imagery. I think that was good. All right, thank you all for coming. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to put them in the chat box. If you have any ideas of topics you would like me to present on for a workshop, feel free to contact me. And I hope that you all have a wonderful day, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you so much for coming. Bye-bye.